Hello again, this is Doc Rotten from Gruesome Magazine Horror News Radio. Joining me tonight is the one and only Paul Cardullo with another installment of Groovy, Gory, Gruesome Gold, the retro reviews. Tonight he is bringing us Children of the Corn from 1984. Oh my gosh. Paul, how are you doing?
Pretty good. How you doing, Doc?
I'm doing good. I remember this film. I saw it in 84. I haven't seen it since. Tell me about Children of the Corn.
Well, the story is based on a Stephen King short story, and it's pretty straightforward. You have this town that basically has been taken over by the children. There's a sort of child preacher, Isaac, played by John Franklin, who has basically converted all the children. They've slaughtered all the adults, and they worship he who walks behind the rows in the cornfield. And that all happens really quickly at the beginning. And then you have this young couple played by Peter Horton, his Bert, played by Peter Horton from later on of 30-something, and Vicky, played by Lyndall Hamilton, probably about a year or so before she's shows up on the Terminator. And they drive around for literally 45 minutes till they end up in the town. And then they come across these children and have to escape with their lives. That's pretty much the gist of it.
Yeah, it also has R.G. Armstrong and Courtney Gains.
Yes,
Malachai.
Yeah, Courtney Gains is sort of the Malachai is the other real big standout there with John Franklin as Isaac. But yeah, those are probably the two biggest things to recommend the film would be the characters of Isaac and Malachai played by John Franklin and Courtney Gains. John Franklin Isaac is younger, supposedly, though John Franklin was 25 when he played it. And Courtney Gains, Malachai looks like one of the older teens, and he's sort of the second in command. And there's a bit of a rivalry going on between the two of them. Other than that, there's honestly not a lot that I can recommend this film for. And I know there's going to be people who probably hate me because they look at this through nostalgia colored glasses and go, yeah, this is great. No, not really. When I said that Peter Horton and Lyndall Hamilton drive around for 45 minutes, they really do. They do not get to the town till about a minute or two before the halfway point in the film. And not a whole lot happens there. And then just the dialogue is really, I hate to say this, it's really kind of dumb. It's really poorly written. There's a big confrontation where Bert, Peter Horton, is surrounded by these children, and he has like this supposed to be this big monologue that turns him. I think he spends about 5 lines that just basically says any religion that doesn't have compassion is a false religion, and all of a sudden then they're on his side, and he's able to kind of escape them, and they're helping him rescue themselves, and the whole thing just doesn't really work terribly well.
Well, when you say it's poorly written, some people listening to this might kind of have their mouths open and their hands over their mouth. This is based on a Stephen King short story. Now, it's not, the script itself is not from Stephen King. It's from a fellow named George Goldsmith. But is it really that bad?
Yeah, I mean, the concept's cool. The concept's neat, just like a lot of Stephen King stuff. The concept itself is actually kind of cool. The idea of these children worshiping he who walks behind the rows, which could it be a monster, or is it a god, or is it both? That idea is really kind of neat. The big problem, aside from it's the dialogue that just doesn't work in this. It just doesn't feel very good. It doesn't feel very natural. And then the other thing is, the other problem is the direction in it. Here, this should be terrifying because you have these hordes of kids coming after you, and that, nothing's scarier than children, right? And I say that as a parent. And you should have these hordes of children coming after you. This should be terrifying. And it's like, first of all, half the kids look like they're 25, and secondly, it just isn't scary. So, I mean, the concept's good. It's just, I think, really poor execution is sort of what does it in.
I would imagine many people listening are very familiar with Linda Hamilton. As she would later this year would be, in Terminator.
Indeed.
What did you think of her in this one?
I mean, she's not given a whole lot to do, but it's just kind of there. She doesn't have a whole lot to do, and the dialogue she's given, the dialogue that Peter Horton are given is just pretty terrible. So it's hard to shine.
Hard to shine
Through the script. Though, like I said, the ones that do manage to pull it off are John Franklin as Isaac and Courtney Gains as Malachai, because those are actually kind of iconic performances and iconic characters in kind of a crappy movie.
And I think a lot of people will remember them. Go ahead and give us your score, 1 to 5, and your favorite scene.
I'm going to give it a 2.5, which I think I'm being generous. And a good portion of that really does come from the Isaac and Malachai characters and just the general idea behind it, which may explain why there's something like 7 sequels to this thing. Like somebody was saying, well, there's got to be something good in this. Favorite scene, I would say, it's actually any of the scenes where Isaac is preaching to the kids, because he really kind of captures that especially during the 80s, that evangelical preacher feeling to it. And final thoughts are it is an iconic. There are iconic roles, but just go into this. Don't expect to necessarily be terrified or terribly entertained for good portions of it. And someone might want to string me up in the cornfield if this is one of their favorite films, but it didn't really work for me.
All right, Paul. Thank you for another great review.
Good night.
Be sure to visit GruesomeMagazine.com to listen to the other Gruesome podcasts, Hard News Radio, and Decades of Horror. Also check out the Gruesome Magazine Quarterly, available in digital and print-on-demand formats.